Hello, I hope everyone is doing great today. For the past few months, I've been studying an ancient story called the Enuma Elish. I was unfamiliar with this text before I read Hesiod's Theogony. In the introduction to the Theogony, it states the Enuma Elish influenced the Greek mythos. I've discovered that many Bible critics point to the Enuma Elish as being a prototype for the creation account found in the book of Genesis. Given such profound claims, it seems reasonable to evaluate this text thoroughly. In 1849, Austin Henry Layard discovered the library of Ashurbanipal, who was king of Assyria. More than 30,000 clay tablets and fragments were discovered. The Enuma Elish was found among these tablets. These date back to the 7th century BC. Many of the tablets can be seen in the British Museum. The story in the Enuma Elish is likely much older, dating back to ancient Babylon. Only an original portion has been found, and much of it has been pieced together from later sources. The story begins before creation, with the gods Apsu and Tiamat. They existed together as a cosmic ocean. The central character is the god Marduk, who later destroys Tiamat after Apsu, her mate, is killed. Marduk then creates man and the animals. When the Enuma Elish was first discovered, many scholars thought the writer of Genesis borrowed material from the Enuma Elish. It was a common idea among scholars at the time to think the Babylonian culture was the source for all ancient religions, including Christianity. However, later discoveries from other ancient cultures have led modern scholars to doubt the widespread influence of the Babylonians, and thus, it's believed today, the creation account in Genesis isn't directly dependent upon the Enuma Elish. We'll examine the text in a moment. First, as I was researching, I had this question in mind. Should I consider evidence, either for or against there being a creator, outside of what the divine attributes would reveal? I've discussed the Creator's attributes in my first 8 videos, so let me go through them quickly. The Creator must have power to create the universe. The ability to create isn't enough, but the Creator must also possess the knowledge needed to create the universe. The universe we observe contains order, an order which has existed throughout time and exists throughout space. This ultimately means the constants of the universe, this order, is unchanging. Therefore, the Creator also must have an unchanging nature. If the Creator has this level of power and knowledge, and is unchanging, then there can only be one Creator. If there were, say, 2 creators, then there could be abilities the other lacks. These 2 creators would need to make compromises, or these beings would have to be in perfect agreement, sharing the same mind even, and we'd see them as one and the same, thus still one Creator. Lastly, the Creator must be unsearchable. We are limited to observing one physical universe. We have no way of spying in and observing the Creator directly. The Creator would have to reveal Himself to us throughout time and demonstrate these divine attributes. He must show power beyond natural ability, give knowledge beyond natural understanding, and exhibit an unchanging nature. Then, and only then, will we know the Creator truly exists. If any of these gods in the Enuma Elish, or any other text, lack the divine attributes of the Creator, then these gods have shown themselves to be false gods, and we can conclude the story is also false. If God in Genesis demonstrates these attributes, then we know He is the Creator, and the story in Genesis must also be true. Someone may claim archaeology has shown the Enuma Elish is older than the Bible, and the similarities between the texts indicate the Genesis writer stole some aspects from the Babylonians. Therefore, neither story can be trusted. The similarities are just too numerous. This is often the kind of evidence given which would be outside the scope of my study. But why not consider these claims? Personally, I'd be very leery of using similarities as evidence. For one, the internal dating of Genesis is older, and I can just as easily say the Enuma Elish was influenced by the Genesis account. Second, cited similarities support a biased claim. If I conclude these texts are linked because of apparent similarities, then I'm excluding differences which could support they were written independent of each other. Here's how you can prove the Bible is untrue and prove me wrong. I've already evaluated the first books of the Bible, and I found God portrayed in these as the creator of the universe. There can only be one creator, however. So to challenge my reasoning, we need to continue evaluating other gods to see if they exhibit these same divine attributes. Only one more creator is needed. If any other gods have these divine attributes, then we have found at least two when there can only be one. This result would mean we are unable to make a distinction based on the criteria between false gods and the one true creator of the universe. No other evidence is needed. If no gods in the Enuma Elish have the attributes of the creator, then the story in the Bible remains true. However, after evaluating the Enuma Elish, and if we find a god there who possesses these same attributes, then we have a problem. We'd have no alternative but to try and determine which text is older. In this situation, we could never be completely certain. The argument then could be made the Creator didn't provide us with the necessary evidence to distinguish the difference between false gods, or he was unable to prevent the evidence from being lost to time. The bottom line is, I wouldn't be able to draw a conclusion from this study. There's either one God or there are no gods. If no gods in the Enuma Elish or any other text are found to meet the criteria to be the creator, then the God spoken of in the book of Genesis is the true creator, as indicated by this text, and the internal dating of Genesis would be reliable. So let's briefly take a look at the Enuma Elish and see what we find. I'll be using Leonard William King's book, The 7 Tablets of Creation. The first 10 lines of Tablet 1 read, "When in the height heaven was not named, and the earth beneath did not yet bear a name, and the primeval Apsu, who begot them, and Chaos, Tiamat, the mother of them both, their waters were mingled together. And no field was formed, no marsh was to be seen, when of the gods none had been called into being, and none bore a name, and no destinies were ordained. Then were created the gods in the midst of heaven. Lamu and Lahamu were called into being." So before there was a heaven and an earth, there were 2 primal gods, Apsu and Tiamat. Apsu was the father of the early gods, and Tiamat was their mother. Apsu is the personification of fresh water, and Tiamat is the goddess of the salty sea. Apsu and Tiamat were mingled together, their waters mixed, and the early gods were conceived. Like the gods in the theogony I previously discussed, all gods who were created by these first 2 gods would be false gods. They had a beginning, and therefore lack an unchanging nature. Both Apsu and Tiamat were there in the beginning, so we can't exclude them yet from being the creator. Can we consider them to be false gods because there's 2 of them? Well, it appears in this ancient mythos the gods existed as male and female pairs, and they are mixed together, existing as one cosmic sea, so they may be one and the same. However, I couldn't find anywhere in the text where Apsu and Tiamat are described as one god. This seems to be a foreign concept in this text. Nevertheless, let's keep investigating. Tiamat and Apsu are unable to rest due to the evil way of their children. Apsu plans to destroy the way of his children so he can then rest and have peace. If you're familiar with the false god indicators from the last episode, you may say Apsu is afflicted against his will because he can't sleep. However, the story seems to be vague on how he's afflicted. He's either troubled because of the wrongdoing his children are engaged in, or they are making too much noise and hurting his ears. Another character, Ea, is introduced who overhears their plotting. I chose King's book because he cites the physical tablets the story is drawn from. However, part of the story is missing, so I used worldhistory.org to fill in the gaps. The story goes on to say, Ea, who excels in knowledge, the skilled and learned, Ea, who knows everything, perceived their tricks. He poured out sleep upon him as he was slumbering deeply. He put Apsu to slumber as he poured out sleep. He bound Apsu and killed him. At this point, there's no denying Apsu is afflicted against his will and is killed. Therefore, he can't be the creator. Apsu's murder enrages Tiamat, who goes on to make war against her children, and she is later killed by Marduk. These so-called gods have immense power, but their power doesn't extend to the point of immortality. The text says Ea knows everything. However, no fulfilled prophecy is given to the writer of the Enuma Elish, so we don't have what we need to know if the text is from the Creator. All we have is a claim and no evidence. Divine knowledge isn't demonstrated. After reading and examining the Enuma Elish, we're still left with only one Creator, who has provided the evidence of His divine attributes. Thank you for watching this episode. Next, I think I'd like to evaluate a text people believe in today, something outside of the biblical canon, maybe the Quran or the Book of Mormon, for example. Also, I started this channel wanting to explain why I'm a Christian, so I'm going to jump forward and evaluate the gospel. Thanks again for watching my videos, and I hope everyone has a great day.